The Festina Affair, Lance Armstrong, Aero Socks, Chris Froome's Aero Tuck, Danny Vanhout. So what do all of these things have in common? Well, they all incurred the wrath of the UCI, resulting in bans and or suspensions. We're all familiar with the other ones. So what did Danny Vanhout do? So, and I think before we talk about what Danny Vanhout did to incur the wrath of the UCI, we first kind of need to actually talk about who Danny Vanhout is. Now, if you're someone who's possibly never heard his name before because you don't follow the sport that closely, or you're someone like me who had just kind of completely forgotten his name because other things needed space in your brain. Danny Vanhout has actually been a cyclist since the late 70s. In the early 80s, in 1980 specifically, he actually qualified for the U.S. Olympic team. But it's important to note he didn't compete in the 1980 Olympics because the U.S. was protesting those games because they were being held in Moscow, Russia, and there was, the Cold War and that whole thing. So he actually was awarded a congressional medal for those games, but he did return in 1984 to compete for the U.S. He was also one of the founding members of the 7-Eleven team, a team that would go on to have some big names through their ranks over the years, including Bob Roll, Davis Finney, Sean Yates, lots of big names. If the last name Finney sounds familiar to you, that is because Davis Finney's son, Taylor Finney, was a racer as well for a number of years. Sean Yates, no relation to the Yates twins that we now see in the peloton, but nevertheless, some really big names did come out of that team. That team went on to become the Motorola team, which Lance Armstrong got his start on when he was the U.S. road race champion. So he does have long credentials from the sport that do show that he knows what he's doing. In the early 2000s, he became the director sportif for the team Jelly Belly. And those of you who may not have remembered Jelly Belly, they had quite possibly the coolest kits and bikes in a pro peloton ever. They were so cool. And I know for a fact that someone here in Fort Worth has one of those Team Jelly Belly Focus Izalcos. And if you're that person and you're watching, please get in touch with me because I would love to test ride your bike. Please, 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 please. Anyway, Jelly Belly was decently successful for a number of years, mostly racing domestically, though. They never really broke into the main world tour of the UCI, but they were frequent at the Tour of California, the Amgen Tour of California. That's a whole other topic for a video. But Jelly Belly did have some success while they were a team, including having Fred Rodriguez on the team, who was the national road race champion for the USA at a certain point, as well as many other riders that came through their development program. That team did fold in around 2019, and then Danny went on to be the director sportif of Senesca Cycling, which kind of self-describes itself as a development team for women talent. So it looks like he's just kind of shifting his focus there and trying to bring up the next generation of women riders. So that's a really great position to be in. That's a really great team to be at the helm of. So what happened? At last year's Argenta Classic, Senesca Cycling was on the roster to ride. Now, there was a specific rule for this race that you needed 5 riders to start at the beginning of the race. One of Senesca's riders was sick and was not able to take the line, meaning the entire team would be disqualified. So what did Danny Vanhout do? He told their team mechanic, Moira Barrett, to kit up in their sick rider's uniform, put a face mask on, go to the check-in table, sign in as her, and then try to just compete the race and, I guess, fool everybody into thinking they had their 5 riders there. It is important to note that Moira Barrett herself is a racer. You're able to find her results online. And I want to make this absolutely clear. I am not criticizing Moira's stats here because I promise you they are so much better than mine ever were. Simply what I'm trying to point out here is that she is a rider that tends to be in the lower 50% of the field, which is, if we're honest, that would be a fair majority of us. We would be in this same position. She's a very kind of average, middle-of-the-road rider, but very, very good in her own right. She has come very close to a couple wins. She only has 1 DNF on there, so she is a good rider. I make that point to say I don't necessarily think the substitution would have been an advantage for them in this race. But what did end up happening is they were caught immediately. I mean, immediately. And the way they were caught is just, it's so comical to me that I almost can't believe it's real. When they went to sign in at the beginning of the race, because if you don't know, every team still has to come and sign in every rider, and this is just a step that every race has to do, and they have to sign in person just to ensure they are at the venue, they are ready to race, etc., etc. Really kind of for situations exactly like this. So they come up to the table to sign in, and the president of the UCI commissaires is there. He knows the sick rider personally, so instantly knew Moira Barrett was not her. So what the UCI did is yesterday they did release a statement on what is going to be happening and the steps that are going to be taken to kind of fix this situation and dole out the punishments as they see fit. What we ended up seeing was Danny Vanhout getting a suspension to December 31st of 2025. Moira Barrett, the mechanic who dressed up in the kit, is suspended until September the 1st of 2024, so she's getting about a 6-month suspension there. The other 4 riders were also named, and they're really kind of getting away with slaps on the wrist, but the UCI argues that because they were on the team and really were aware of the deception that was going on, that they're also culpable. So they really did kind of receive some slap on the wrist as well as some fines, I believe, and the team itself has been fined and suspended for a couple races. What I wanted to talk about with this is I think the punishments are a little stupid. And it gets into more of the actual topic of this video, and that is, what is the UCI even there for at this point if we're really just going to be punishing this kind of, let's be real, Wile E. Coyote behavior here? And I go with Wile E. Coyote because the plan failed immediately. They were found out almost instantaneously that this was going on. I just feel like there are so many other things that the UCI could actually be focusing on that are really going to help affect the sport in a better way than stupid shit like this. And let's look at some of the other things that the UCI has been focusing on lately and what they've been actually trying to do as a governing body. Some of the things that have gotten the most attention over the last couple years are things like Chris Froome's Aero Tuck that I mentioned in the beginning. This was a move banned by the UCI for being too dangerous. And yeah, to be fair, that's probably fair. That's actually probably a good one. But then there are things like the whole Aero Sock controversy, where it was seen as you can't have the Aero Socks because it gives an unfair advantage in aerodynamics to the rider wearing them, which would make sense if every Pro Tour team did not have access to Aero Socks. But they do, so it's just kind of stupid. That's not something that I feel like cheapens the sport at all. It's not the same level as doping to cheat by just wearing longer Aero Socks. I mean, the whole point of the UCI's rule of you can only race it if the public can buy it really applies here because the public can buy Aero Socks too. I mean, you shouldn't because they're fucking Aero Socks. You really don't need them at any sort of hobbyist or just enthusiast level. There's really no point to them. Don't buy them. But the fact stands that they are a piece of equipment that should be allowed in the UCI because the general public can ride them. And really, I think that should be a decision up to the riders if they want to wear those or not. I don't think the governing body has any place in that decision. Also, the same thing with turning the levers inward. Now, and I will say, personally, I think this is absolutely stupid. I don't understand the point and why riders are doing this. Honest to God, the first time I saw someone with their levers turned in like that, I thought they had been involved in a crash earlier in the stage and had just gone face first into a wall and it turned their levers. It wasn't until later I realized this is a choice all these young new pros are doing, and I think it's really kind of fucking stupid, but that's not my place. It's riders' choice. If the riders want to do that, let them do it. It has no bearing on the race whatsoever, again, because they say it gives an aerodynamic advantage that's unfair to the other competition. Everyone can turn their levers in. It takes 2 seconds. You take a hex wrench, you loosen the bolt a little, you turn the lever, you tighten the bolt back. It's not like it's some magical secret that no one has access to. This is a simple modification that can be done in a matter of seconds. So it's just kind of ridiculous for them to be sticking their nose where it doesn't really need to be. And I'm not really the only one with this opinion here, because Quinn Simmons, one of our national road race champions here in America, has even stated he doesn't really understand what is the point of the UCI if all they're going to be doing is regulating these stupid aesthetics and not the actual safety of the riders while they're on the route. And this is a major concern coming from the riders again and again, that routes are getting too dangerous, descents are getting too dangerous, crowds are too close, and there's not enough to do to keep them safe. And this seems to be the UCI trying to flaunt their power a little bit, kind of trying to just remind everyone that they're there. But at the end of the day, everyone can see through how absolutely feckless this is. And the UCI has a lot of work to do to maintain and really rebuild their reputation in the eyes of everyone, because they have been doing the dumbest stuff possible for the entirety of the UCI's existence. Even just taking a brief glance at the Wikipedia page for the UCI will show you a litany of scandals, and these are just some of the biggest ones. These even aren't the cream of the crop. Well, these are the cream of the crop, but there have been hundreds of other, just even small ones that just don't make any sense of why the UCI is wasting their time with it. And if we look at some of their more serious ones, bribery and doping. If everyone wants to know how Lance Armstrong got away with it for so long, is he was essentially a paid informant for the UCI. He was tattletaling on every competition he could get his hands on. The second he knew they were doping, he was turning them in. And the UCI turned a blind eye to his actions because he was helping keep the sport clean by getting the other riders out. They saw him as this almost necessary evil they had to work with, and they didn't. They did not have to work with him whatsoever, and they did it. They covered up numerous scandals. They covered up so many different things. They have bribed governments. They have bribed the Olympics. They have done all of these things over their history, and they're concerned about what socks the riders are wearing and who actually shows up at the line. Again, I get those kind of rules for when it is these massive major competitions. And I'm not trying to say that the competition that Senesca Cycling did this in was not a major competition. What I'm saying is, how is riding one rider down a benefit? Just let them start the race with the 4 riders. Just do it. What does it matter? Let them start with the 4. It's fine. They wouldn't have even had to go through this whole charade and song and dance. But to be fair, because I want to tell all sides here, to be fair, maybe they're saying that Danny probably could have put that rider on the bike for at least the neutral start and then let her abandon. You know, you're at least still starting with all 5 riders. It doesn't say they have to all finish together. You probably could have just done that and maybe avoided all of this, because it looks like it is causing a whole lot more trouble for Moira and Danny specifically, as they have both been removed from Senesca Cycling's website as employees. So it looks like both of them have been removed from their positions as well. It's a really crazy situation for what I think is really just kind of a very minor and really almost kind of silly thing for... It's one of the silliest things I think I've ever seen inside of the Pro Peloton, and I think that a 2-year suspension for something like that is just kind of ridiculous, and it's a little crazy. I think that's again, it's the UCI trying to flex their muscles in the wrong places. UCI, here's what we want. We want races that are safe but fun to watch still. That is a possible thing to do. You don't have to make everything an adrenaline just freebase. You can have races that are still exciting, but don't put the riders at risk. Now, yeah, there are going to be races that are inherently more dangerous than others, and cycling in itself is inherently a dangerous sport. We need to all remember that at all times, that this is a dangerous sport that can take your life. That is a fact that I am not telling you to scare you. I am telling you because you need to be aware of it every time you get on the bike. You need to have your safety in mind above all else. But if the UCI, the governing body of pro racing, is not going to have the riders' safety in mind, then why should we even watch? And that's an honest opinion that I really have to think about. If the governing body is not going to make decisions that are in the best interest of the riders that make the sport possible, then what is the point of watching? But that's just what I wanted to kind of think about today, and a situation that the UCI got involved in and released a statement yesterday that, I think is just kind of silly. And it just brought a lot more to the forefront of the conversation that we could have about the UCI. But maybe you guys have different opinions on this. This is just my take on the situation. So please let me know down in the comments, because I would love to talk to you guys about this and what you really think about the UCI's decision here. Do you think they were in the right? Do you think that maybe it was a little harsh? And do you think that maybe we could lax the rules a little bit on things like that and the amount of riders you need to start a race with? But again, just my opinions. Please let me know down in the comments. And if you guys are not subscribed already, please do, because it really does help support the channel. It really does help me to get these videos out and get them to you guys and be able to share these thoughts with you, which to me really is the most fun thing about doing this, is getting to talk to you guys down in the comments. So yeah, go ahead and let me know. And yeah, when you subscribe, you are going to be joining Team Dobbs Cycle Works. All my team members already here. Best cycling team on the internet. But anyway, go ahead and join Team Dobbs Cycle Works. We will see you guys next time on the show. Ride safe, be safe out there, and take care. We'll see you next time. And UCI, go